kind of go back, especially when I'm this age, and talk to college students, because I was able to start a company while in school, and I love kind of being an example of that, how you can start something when you're in college, and honestly, starting a company in college is one of the best times to do it, because there's the least amount of risk that you're ever going to have, because if your startup fails or you can't get it off the ground, the worst case scenario is that you graduate and you go get a job, but you have all this awesome experience to talk about in a job interview. So anyway, just really happy to be here with you guys and I'll tell you a little bit about my company. So to tell you a little bit about me, I started this company when I was 19, my sophomore year of college, and I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so I'm not from the Bay Area or anything like that. And honestly, I went to college to be an English major and thought I was going to go to law school. So my sophomore year, though, I came out to San Francisco to visit my sister and my brother-in-law. And at the time, my sister had just started a company a year beforehand called Food Spotting. And so it was a food app that you could share or recommend dishes instead of just restaurants. And in 2012, she actually sold it to Open Table for $10 million. But my sophomore year, when I was out visiting her, like, she hadn't sold it or anything like that, was just kind of starting to get it off the ground. And to be honest, I did not understand what she was doing at all. She was like just about to quit her design job at a design agency and go work on this like food app. And yeah, basically every time I would hear her talk about it, I was just kind of annoyed because we would always go out to dinner and she'd be like taking pictures of her food and we couldn't eat until she finished that. And turns out that that was a really great thing because she made a lot of money doing it, was really successful, and has been such a great mentor to me. But anyway, so I came out here to visit her. She was just starting it, and we went to an open house with some people who were working in tech in the Bay Area, and it was kind of my first exposure to startups. And so I was having a conversation with a guy there, and he was just telling me about his company, and everyone in this room was just really passionate about what they were doing. They loved going to work, they loved talking about work, they were working on exciting projects. And so I asked him, you know, how do you come up with a good idea? Because I feel like everything I would think of, someone else has already done, especially if it's an app. And it was the first time I was given the advice, just think of a problem that you've personally experienced and try to come up with a solution for it. So that night, I went back, I was in my sister's apartment, sleeping in this tiny studio apartment in Silla, underneath the kitchen table, and just thinking through the recruiting process I had gone through with soccer. And I started playing when I was 3 years old, played all the way up, still continue to play actually semi-professionally here in the city. But in high school I had friends who were really talented, got recruited, went on to play at UNC, UCLA. A couple of those old teammates are actually on the national team now and going to play in the Olympics this summer. And so saw these success stories of players who had done really, really well, got recruited. But on the same teams, same type of teammates, same talent level in a lot of ways, a lot of those players didn't get recruited. And it wasn't from a lack of effort or talent, it was just that they could not make the right connections. And so as I'm kind of thinking through this problem, very recently before that I had hung out with one of those teammates who didn't get recruited. And I just saw the weight of what that had done to her now that she was in college and all of us were playing and she hadn't made a team. And I just saw that whenever you're an athlete, if you spend 16, 17, 18 years of your life trying to get recruited, you're giving up all of your time during the week for this goal, and then it doesn't work out and you don't get to play for another 4 years just because you couldn't make the right connections with a coach, and you suddenly don't have soccer in your life, you lose a part of your identity. And so that was where the real passion for this problem and everything came about for me, was just a personal experience with friends going through this and completely losing their identity. And so I have to say that I didn't know anything about business going into this. I was just an English major with a vision of what I wanted the college athletic recruiting process to look like. So I'm going to show you a video. This is a demo video of what Profile Passer is, to give you a little bit of an overview of the problem and the solution that we're trying to solve.
Alright, so you're an athlete. Looks like you're doing everything right to get recruited. You're training hard, playing at the top showcase tournaments in the country, and you just emailed your player profile out to 50 college coaches. It's just a matter of time until you're committing to a great team, right? Well, probably not. See, the truth is that college coaches get up to 1,500 emails or messages every single month from players just like you. Odds are your profile probably just got dumped into a spam folder, and the majority of those coaches will never watch you play. But we have some good news. Profile Passer can help you increase your exposure to college coaches and create more opportunities for college coaches to come watch you play. Here's how it works. Sign up on our website and start creating a profile today. Then, when you get to your next showcase tournament, check into the tournament on Profile Passer and automatically see the list of colleges who actually showed up to your tournament. You can then search through the list of coaches and find schools that match what you're looking for in a college team. For example, you can search by a school's average SAT score to get in, the division of the program, and the position of the coach. You can then learn more about the school on the coach's profile, and then pass your profile and game schedule, mobile to mobile, to up to 10 college coaches checked into the same tournament. Check your activity feed to see the tournaments you've checked into, who you've sent your profile to, and the coaches who have viewed your profile. When a coach receives your profile, they can then learn more about you, like how to get in touch, your test scores, and who you are as a player. If they like what they see, they can easily walk over to your field to watch you play. At the end of the tournament, go back and see an overview of all the schools you connected with. So if you're sick of wasting time emailing college coaches, not knowing who actually came to your tournament, and missing opportunities to get college coaches to watch you play, then sign up for Profile Passer today. Profile Passer. Check in, pass, play.
So that's just a little bit of a demo of how it works. To give you a little bit of background, before something like Profile Passer existed, what players do is they create their athletic resume, and it's literally a piece of paper. And when they go to a tournament or a camp where scouts are coming in to watch them play, a parent will literally stand on the sideline handing out a paper profile to whatever coach happens to walk by the field, just leaving recruiting completely up to chance. Or players are trying to use recruiting services where they basically will create that profile online, and then they'll just mass email it out to every college that seems like to be a match. And so what we've really focused on is connecting players and coaches on the field. Making sure that you know which coaches are actually at the event. And then we limit the number of profiles you can share too. So a huge problem is you give a player basically access to this huge database of coaches, and they think, well, if I cast a wide net, I'll send it to everyone, and then someone will get back to me. But the problem is that coaches are getting 1,500 emails a month. They're getting profiles left and right from people who know nothing about their program. And so we really help people narrow their focus and give them a tool that allows them to share it with a limited number, so it's really focused. So yeah, basically they check into events here, then as a player there might be 500,000 coaches at a single event, and so you can filter through based off of what you're looking for in a college program, and then it'll generate a list of matches. You can go onto a coach's profile, learn a little bit more about the school, share your profile with your top 10 schools, and then track your activity as well to see if the coach has actually received the profile, opened it, and the events that you've gone to. So that's a little bit about what we actually do. But I want to go back and kind of talk a little bit about the journey of Profile Passer. Starting a company, I can tell you a ton of stuff that we've been successful in. You look at demo videos, we've gotten a product out the door, and we've had success. We've had athletes recruiting using it. But this story is just so full of ups and downs. So right before my senior year of college, I went to Startup Weekend back in Pittsburgh and ended up placing third, got some really great feedback from people outside the soccer community, people I didn't know at all, and kind of validated that this was a real problem and a solution that could work. And so the next kind of step for me back in Pennsylvania was trying to get into an accelerator called Alpha Lab, which at the time was ranked number 6 in the country by TechCrunch. And so basically that's one of the few ways you can kind of get some seed money back where I'm from. So I applied my senior year of college, and at the same time I had also applied for a marketing internship at the National Soccer Coaches Association, which is down in Kansas City. So those were kind of my two options for the summer. I wanted to get serious about Profile Passer, and that would only happen if I kind of got into Alpha Lab, otherwise I was planning on doing this other internship. So I woke up. It was in the middle of the spring semester. I think it was in the middle of like midterms or something like that. It was a Monday morning. Didn't even get out of bed, like turn on my phone, scroll through my email, and the first email I get is from the NSCAA, this marketing internship, and I totally got rejected. And so I was like, all right, well, stakes are higher. I like really got to get into Alpha Lab if I want to have any plans for the summer. And I looked down, and the next email was an email from Alpha Lab. And I open it up, and it's kind of a generic email where they say basically, we've had hundreds of startups that apply, thanks for submitting. We don't have enough time to give everyone individual feedback, but unfortunately you didn't get in. But then I scrolled down a little bit further, and there was a note, personal note actually in there from the guy who ran Alpha Lab, and he said, "Hey Sam, we normally don't give feedback, but we really feel like we want to give you a little bit more details of why you didn't get in specifically, because we really believe in your company, and just really want to help you out." So I think it's important to pause here, because whenever you get rejected from something, or something totally comes up that this is a huge roadblock and you can't see the way forward, which is exactly how I was feeling at this time, with no summer opportunities basically, and all of my friends had internships and I just had no idea what I was going to do next. I think it's really, really, really important to take a few minutes and just sit in the weight of that rejection. It's okay to feel totally disappointed and totally defeated, and yeah, just let yourself kind of feel that, and I did. I totally cried that whole day. I was so upset. And then I woke up the next morning and I thought to myself, I am trying to run this company because I really, really believe in the problem that I'm solving. This isn't about my personal success. This isn't about me getting an internship this summer. It's that I really, really believe in what I'm doing is going to make a difference. And so I emailed the guy back and I said, all right, I'd like to do a follow-up call. I'd really like to hear your feedback. So we set up a call for the next day on Wednesday. And on that call, I convinced him to give me an interview anyway, and I completely changed his mind. And on Friday, I had an interview for this accelerator. So they had about, I would say, 150 or so companies apply that cycle, and they picked, I think, 10 companies to interview, or 20 companies to interview. And so everyone else had the entire week to prepare. So you go in and you pitch basically in front of 15 or so middle-aged men who are very intimidating when you're 19 years old. And so everyone had the entire week to prepare, and I had 48 hours. I also had midterms that week that I was taking. And so I basically did not sleep for those 48 hours. I called everyone that I knew to figure out okay, what do I have to present in this interview? And what do I have to do that's extra? Because obviously they didn't see it the first time around when they screened me. So there's something I have to deliver that's extra from everyone else. And so I put together a presentation, I put together kind of a demo video, everything. I went in Friday morning, I pitched, and you walk out and you kind of you're expecting to kind of know, oh, I did great, or I might get in, or whatever. But the problem with these processes is they take 2 or 3 months until you hear it back. So you kind of go in, pitch, and then you have to wait. And so it was actually after the semester had ended, it was in May, I was in South Africa with my soccer team, and I got an email that I had gotten in. And they had actually decided to take more than 6 companies that cycle, and they went up to 10. So we were one of the extra companies basically that got to go in. And so that, I think, was a really, really important lesson that I've learned in kind of this entrepreneurial journey is even when people say no, don't take no for an answer. And so this is actually something that I wrote to the program director after I finished my interview. And so it just says, this is an emotional week for me, starting on Monday with your decision not to interview Profile Passer, and then obviously ending with our exciting time together yesterday. I think this week was a perfect example of what the entrepreneurial journey is like, full of ups and downs. As an athlete and now a CEO, I have learned to never give up on my dreams and the importance of having an unshakable faith in my ability to get the job done. I've been working on Profile Passer for the last 1.5 years, and I'm so excited to see what my company is able to accomplish this summer. So we ended up having a little bit of success after that, which is awesome. This is a great kind of launching pad. So during that time, we got an MVP out the door, and we partnered up with a club in Maryland and Virginia, and we ran the recruiting for their showcase tournament. So that weekend, we had over 400 players check in, over 50 college coaches check in on our technology, and the first athlete was recruited in the first weekend successfully. And so I remember seeing that happen and getting the survey feedback for found out someone actually got recruited. And my mom actually went with me to that tournament because I had the flu, also during midterms again the next year, and was just so completely exhausted given everything I had that weekend to even get there and then get this done. And I remember on the drive back from Maryland, I looked over at my mom and I was just like, if this company completely fails, it'll be totally worth it because someone got recruited using this tool today. And so those little moments that kind of help push you forward as you keep going on this kind of journey. So this is a picture from my demo day. So at the end of the 20-week cycle I did with Alpha Lab, I pitched over 500 investors and media and friends and family from around the nation. and it's just a really, really, really fun day to celebrate kind of everything we had accomplished during those 20 weeks. So then, my senior year, this is in the spring, so this is about 2 years ago, randomly, someone in the entrepreneurship department at my college emailed me and said, hey, you know, Inc. magazine is running this competition for the coolest college startup in America. You should apply. And I remember I got the email and I thought to myself, there's no way I'm applying for this. Like, some kid from Harvard's gonna get this. Because I was at a tiny, tiny school. There's 2,500 students. No one's ever heard of it. And so I decided not to apply, actually. And then a couple weeks later, I was taking a friend down to do an interview in Pittsburgh. I had 20 minutes to kill, and I was kind of deleting my emails. And I came across this email again for the competition. It was the last day to apply. And so I thought to myself, well, if I can fill this application in 20 minutes, then I'll apply. Like, leave it up to chance. And I got the application done, I submitted it, and a few weeks later, I got an email that I had been named to the top 16 coolest college startups in America, which was really exciting. And so then they ran this like March Madness style competition, and so you see us kind of moving up the bracket. So we ended up beating out a company from University of Washington, and then also MIT as well, which was really fun. So that got us a lot of press, which is exciting as well. So we did a couple of TV interviews that came to my college, which was fun. And yeah, it was just a really good time. So then we ended up doing a second tournament. It was called the Florida Craze, Crush Craze or whatever, showcase. And it was exciting because we had a 98% sign-up rate from all the players, which was just like, that's a stat that's kind of out of the water. But the problem was that our technology totally failed. We had a ton of bugs, and I didn't have an engineering team at the time, and I completely run out of funding as well. So we didn't have the resources to fix it. And again, kind of got to this crossroads of, man, people like want this, I really want to solve this problem, but I just don't know how to move forward with this. And so, to be honest, I burned out. That was after I had graduated. I honestly did not know how to hire an engineering team. I couldn't raise money where I was at in Pittsburgh, and just felt like I don't know what to do next. I knew my student loans were going to start kicking in soon as well. I knew I could go get a good job and have money and get paid and everything. And so I actually moved out to San Francisco. During that time, I took a couple of different jobs doing contract work and everything. And then last April, I started over. This is something that I just couldn't give up. And I love this quote. It says, if you really want something and really work hard and take advantage of opportunities and never give up, you will find a way. And I think that's a really, really, really important lesson to learn when running a startup, is that you're going to encounter a lot of roadblocks where you just don't know how to go forward. But I was really passionate about what I was doing. I love playing soccer. I love the soccer community. I love being around other players and coaches and organizations. And so I really just tapped back into that passion for the game and why I was doing what I was doing. And that inspired me to kind of keep going. And so we kind of restarted the company and found an engineer. And these are photos that have been taken over really the last year. So a lot of these is Landon Donovan from the national team, Shannon Box, who just won the World Cup, Yana Laver-Bush, who just won the NWSL championship. So all these pro players I've got to work with and meet and get really, really excited about what we're doing. It's been really fun. So I have one more video. This is from Shannon Box, who has just won the World Cup. And no one has actually seen this video yet because we haven't announced that she's working with us. So you guys get to see this for the first time. So she's just going to talk to you a little bit about what makes Profile Passer different in her mind.
What interested me about Profile Passer after speaking with Sam and the differences that I saw was that it really connected the coaches and the players where it mattered most, on the field. And it really made the players themselves narrow their focus on what schools they're very interested in, because you could only pick 10 schools when you went to a tournament or signed into Profile Passer. And for the coaches, I thought it was a good benefit for them because they realized that these players were very interested in their schools. They weren't picking 9 schools, they were picking 10. And if they were one of them, they were really interested in it. What I also like about Profile Passer is that they recognize that the technology of Profile Passer itself is not going to get a player recruited. That it takes the entire understanding of the whole process. And that's where the education piece comes in. if the education piece is going to help the player start to understand and learn how to communicate with college coaches. It's going to help them research and figure out what schools are the right fit for them. And it'll help them answer their own questions of how to narrow their focus down to the top 10 schools that they might want. Overall, Profile Passer stood out to me because one, it connected players and coaches on the field where it mattered most. Two, it educated players on the overall process so that they can find the right fit for them and be successful.
So the other piece of kind of what we're doing is we have this technology, but in the rebirth of all this, we've actually written a recruiting course, which thanks to your sister, kind of got me inspired to do that as well. And so we've written this entire course that we educate parents and players on the entire recruiting process, teach them how to use our technology. And we have 3 World Cup champions, including Abby Wambach, who are actually teaching this recruiting course at all their camps and clinics, which is really exciting. So kind of the final thing is, I always have this saying that anyone can come up with a good idea, but do you have the courage to make it happen? And I think that's really, really true. I've met a lot of friends who say they're really excited about startups, say they want to start companies, and honestly, a lot of them have good ideas that are based in problems that they personally experienced that they know are out there, and they've come up with a solution that probably would solve it. But I don't know if it's that they don't have the courage to do it, or they get burnt out, or they're just not serious enough about it. But if you look at the number of people who actually are successful with startups, it's not a very large number, and I think it's because a lot of people give up way too early on that. And so I think that just plays back into the idea of starting a company that is based around something you're really, really, really passionate about. Because starting a startup is really hard, from getting rejections from investors, from people you want to work with, from customers, things like that. There's all kinds of stuff that can go wrong, and does go wrong. And you really have to just dig deep and dig into the passion that you had that made you start the entire thing to begin with. And I think if money or prestige or things like that are the things that motivate you to start a company, then you're probably not going to make it. Because those things are just like, they're so hard to achieve. For me, it's never been about trying to make money or be a college student that started a startup or something like that. It's that I really, 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 really care about the soccer community. And I know so many people who have been such talented athletes that should have played at the next level and honestly could have gone even further than that, who have just completely had that opportunity taken away from them because the system is so broken. And so, honestly, I've started this company not for the players that even will get recruited, it's also for the players who don't get recruited. It's for the players who need to know that they're just not talented enough to play at the next level. So if you're working super hard to get to the next level, as athletes you're taught that like if you give your best effort and you lose, that's okay, you just weren't good enough that day. And in the recruiting process, you can give your best effort and you can lose, and you can't go on to the next level. So it's just really important to me for those players who don't make it to know that it was just about talent. And I think we can all walk away kind of happier and successful people and go on to live successful lives and not just have, that be the thing that hangs over you for the rest of your life. So anyway, just leave you with you guys with this, that if you have a good idea, come up with something that you're really passionate about, and then don't let anyone get in the way of doing it. Even if you are told no, you're going to get rejected a million times, but you have to keep going and keep going and keep going, and those are the people that end up being successful in the end. So that's what I got for you guys. If you guys have any questions, happy to answer them, and yeah, thanks.
So what are your next steps for Profile Passer?
Yeah, so we are about to launch again in a month. So we've kind of been rebuilding for this whole last year and getting all the pieces in place, writing this recruiting course. We have customers lined up to start using this May 14th actually in Georgia, and then actually teaching this recruiting course to a club in Kansas City next month as well. So our next steps are getting it out the door again. And yeah, starting to continue to build the team and everything like that. We're in the middle of closing our angel round of funding, so we're raising $400K right now and have about $150K committed. So, yep.
Are you thinking about expanding to other sports?
Everyone always ask the question. Yeah, so I think there's two ways for us to grow in the future. And that's a question I get asked all the time because this is a very niche market. So with a company like my sister's, which was just in food, like literally anyone with a smartphone who ate out at dinner could like use food spotting. But with this, it's very niche. It's high school club athletes who are trying to get recruited. And so people always ask that question because they want to see how could this grow. And so there's two ways that we could grow. Either one, going into other sports, which I've seen companies, other sports tech companies, start with a product in one sport and then quickly expand into others and actually fail and run out of money because what they didn't realize was that starting into a new sport was almost like starting a new business every single time. They're similar, but they're also very different. So we may expand into other sports, but if we do it, we want to be really focused on how we're doing it. And the other way is to grow within the soccer tech vertical. There's a lot of problems to solve in soccer, and something I'm really, really passionate about, so I actually think we can grow a lot in that area, especially because soccer is the biggest sport in the world too, so, yeah. Yep.
So when you started over, did you get like an engineering team or how
So,
did you
yeah, I met someone actually in San Francisco who was good friends with a lot of my friends who was looking for a project, and so she was actually kind of the one that pulled me back into like doing this again, because honestly when we met I had just accepted a job here in San Francisco and had been working on trying to get this kind of company off the ground and everything, and a month before that actually turned down an acquisition offer from a company in Paris that was doing soccer tech. And so, yeah, she was kind of looking for a project. She was like, I think we could do this. And I was like, all right, we'll like try it. I was like, didn't fully want to commit to it, honestly, just because it's so heartbreaking when you like get to a certain point and then you just like kind of bail and don't know how to get out of it. So we slowly kind of started working kind of loosely together, and then it got more and more serious to the point that now we have World Cup champions on our advisory board, which is fun. So. Yeah, so we're a team of three. I have one other person back in Pittsburgh who is the head coach actually at Pitt for soccer, and so she's running biz dev for us, especially on the college coaching side. So, yep.
So do you charge players or coaches? How does that work? How do you make money?
Yeah, so the business model. So it's free for college coaches. We didn't really want to get into a situation where we had to like fight for budget dollars or things like that or get things approved. We wanted to make it as easy as possible for the coaches to use. On the player side, it's $120 a year for the player to sign up individually, but if the club signs up all of their players, then it's $100 per player. And so that's really the model that we've gone after is, and what you'll learn in business too, I've learned this from other jobs that I've had as well, is that when you're trying to go out and get customers, especially initial customers, it's the most expensive and the most time consuming to go after people one at a time, and so you have to find ways to kind of group them together. And so for us, we're really fortunate that they have these clubs. We make about $16,000 in revenue per club that we sign up. Yep.
Hi, have you thought about integrating with Max Preps or some other platforms that players might already be using?
Yeah, so I think what we're doing is a lot different. It's kind of nice because they already have like an audience of people on there and coaches as well. But what we're really doing is focusing on connecting the players and coaches on the field. And honestly, pretty much every recruiting service I've seen out there has done a very similar thing where they create a platform where you put your profile up there and you're just having access to a database of coaches. And so they'll sometimes have like a matching algorithm, and they'll say, here are this list of schools that are perfect for you, and you just kind of like send out your profile. What we found is that coaches, like honestly, they're going into a spam folder and being deleted. So that's actually a struggle for us, is because a lot of people are kind of sick of seeing recruiting services. Everyone kind of promises the same thing, like, oh, we're different, and everything like that. And the market's actually pretty saturated in a lot of ways with those companies. And so for us, we're like really trying to like find ways to communicate that we are not that, that we really are doing something different. So potentially we could end up partnering with someone like that, but in the meantime, trying to make it on our own and do something a little bit different too. Yeah.
So how are you able to like connect with all these like big name people?
Network. I'm reading a book. I just started. It's called, I think, The Tipping Point, and it kind of classifies people. And so an advisor and investor actually told me I should read this book. He's like, you're a connector. You need to learn more about how you're a connector. And honestly, I'm fortunate because I've grown up playing soccer, so I'm fortunate that, you know, I've played with a couple of players that are now on the national team, and I've stayed in touch with them enough. So I've gotten some introductions to them. Sue Moy Chin, who's the person working for us back in Pittsburgh, who's a college coach, she coached Shannon Box in college at Notre Dame. So that was that first introduction. You have to be kind of scrappy too when you're doing startups. So Wells Fargo threw an event with Landon Donovan here in San Francisco like a couple months ago, and I like saw it on Twitter and I like tweeted in to like win an entry, like a ticket to get into this 100-person event. So I got into Wells Fargo, totally skipped out on work that day that I was at a different job. Went to this Wells Fargo event and I stood in a line for like an hour or something like that to get like an autograph, and they were so particular about saying like, you literally walk up, you hand them what you're one item to get signed, and then take a photo and like move on. They're trying to move this line so fast, and you practice your elevator pitch for a reason. So I literally had 30 seconds, and I told him about it. I handed him my card, and he just emailed us back actually yesterday, and remembered me from that event. So a lot of it is just being scrappy and asking for introductions too. So yeah.
Any more questions?
When you signed up for the accelerator, did you already have a version of the product, or is it just like an idea?
So it was definitely an idea at that point. I used some tools that, there are way better tools now, a few years later, but I used a tool called proto.io. So I basically like made screenshots of this in InDesign, uploaded them into like a prototype software, and was able to kind of like fake basically a demo video to just be able to like get across more of what it was supposed to be like. And that was actually a big reason why we got rejected for an interview to begin with. I didn't have an engineer really at the time, and it wasn't very clear how, even with 25K, I was going to build the MVP. And so that was what I really had to like talk about in my interview, was how I was going to overcome that roadblock. So for me, fortunate at the time, going to a small school, the alumni network is like very close and stuff. And so there was a guy who had been an alumni who I knew, who started basically a firm that would build apps and things like that. So I convinced him to do it for a very small price within my 25K budget. And I met with him in those 48 hours between convincing Aflop to give me an interview and doing my interview, to walk through and put together an entire product roadmap of how we were going to build it and get it out the door and still be able to test it before the end of demo day, too. You don't think you have a question?
No, no.
Okay.
It was a lot of
Awesome,
work.
thank you so much.
Yep.